Hi everyone, welcome to part 10 of creating a Minecraft hack client for 1.8.9. In this video we're going to be creating a config system to save which modules are enabled or disabled, as well as the settings for them. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're going to make a new package named config, and let's make a config manager. Great, so in our pom.xml we have the Google JSON package right here that we added in part 1 from com.google.code.json. We're going to be using that to create a new JSON file instead of test_run. Now the cool thing about what we're making is it'll automatically detect the root directory for Minecraft. So even if we export this and this is running in, for example, app data, Minecraft, whatever, it'll automatically find the path for Minecraft. So go ahead and declare some global variables: private final file config file, private final JSON with a G, JSON, and private final module manager. Let's make a constructor of public config manager. Config file equals new file, tutorial.instance.getMC.mcDataDir. So luckily they already provide that for us. And we'll make the file named tutorial_config.json. Make that whatever you'd like. You can also put it in the directory if you'd like. So JSON equals new JSON builder dot set pretty printing dot create, and module manager equals tutorial dot instance get module manager. Now we'll be having a save and load config. Let's go ahead and make the save config first. So public void save config try, and we'll go ahead and make an exception because catch exception just e.print trace. Let's go ahead and copy that down and make a load config, which is just the same base. It's all right. Now we're gonna make a few new files: config data, and then module config, and one more setting config, and config data. We're just going to say public list of module config modules, and then in module config public string name, public boolean toggled, and public list setting config settings. And then finally in setting config we can just do public string name, public string type, and public object value. We're making this an object inside of a regular type because we don't know what type of setting it is. You can make other settings for like double settings, number setting, but it just feels like a waste of time. So all these variables are just the type of things we're going to save. So we're going to save the module name, if it's toggled, the settings, all that. So in config manager, we're going to say inside of save config, config data equals new config data, config data.modules equals new array list for module out of module manager dot get modules dot values, just like that. Module, I cannot spell today. Module config equals new module config dot name equals module dot get name, module config dot toggled equals module dot is toggled, and module config dot settings equals new array list. Now let's go ahead and fill this array list for setting out of module dot get settings list, setting config equals new setting config semicolon, setting config dot name equals setting dot get name, setting dot get name, setting config dot type equals setting dot get class dot get simple name, if setting instance of number setting config dot value equals cast to number setting dot get val, and then else, and just setting here, not setting config. Just like, okay, there we go. And let's copy this. Else if setting instance of boolean setting dot is state, and then copy this. There we go. Mode setting, and mode setting dot get cur mode. And then finally, module config dot settings dot add setting config, and config data dot modules dot add module config. There we go. And then file writer equals new file writer, config file JSON dot to JSON config data comma writer, then writer dot close. All right. So that's save config. Now let's go ahead and do load config, which is somewhat similar. So if not config file dot exist, we'll just do save config. Actually, let's put this on save config return, and then file reader equals new file reader config file type. No. There's a lot of types, but get the type from java.lang.reflect. Type equals new type token of type data config. Curly braces dot get type. That's some weird syntax, but it's Java. What can you do? Config data equals JSON dot from JSON reader comma type, and reader dot close. All right, then for module config out of config data dot modules, module equals module not just manager dot get module config dot name. If module, oh my gosh, stop, this autocomplete is very dumb at times. If module does not equal null, module dot set enabled module config dot set enabled module config dot toggled. And then for setting config out of module config dot settings, setting equals module dot get settings list dot stream dot filter. Now this might get a bit complicated. S to s dot get name dot equals ignore case setting config dot name dot find first dot or else null. If setting does not equal null, if you hear a lot of whistles in the background, it's because there is a football game going on. I can't do much about it. There's about 3 TVs playing it. If setting instance of number setting and setting config dot value instance of number, just number, then we'll say has to number setting dot set val cast to a number setting config dot value double value. Copy this. Else if setting instance of boolean setting and the value is instance of a boolean, and let's just remove the set val here and just do dot set state boolean setting config dot value, and just copy that one last time. Instance of mode setting, instance of string, remove this dot set cur mode setting dot set cur mode, and then cast it to a string and setting config dot value. Great, so that is saving and loading the config. So now let's actually use the save and load config so that we can, just actually use it. So first we're going to go into module, and then inside of on toggle below this notifications manager, we'll just say tutorial.instance.get config manager.save config. We should make this get config manager. Private config manager, and below here, config manager equals new config manager, and we'll also say config manager.load config. Copy this, and then in shutdown, we'll say config manager.save config. And then let's go into settings screen because we want to save settings. So we're going to go down to mouse clicked, and everywhere we're setting the states, we're just going to save it. So tutorial.instance.get config manager.save config. Let's copy this, put it down here, down here, down here, and down here. And great. So now we should most likely have a working config system that will save everything. So I'm going to go ahead and run this and show you that. So first with this ran, if we go into test_run in our project, we don't see anything. Maybe it'll appear in a second, because I am not seeing. Oh, never mind. I'm just blind. Tutorial_config.json. You'll see all of our modules here. You'll see sprint is defaulted to toggle true. But if we were to go into our clickgui and put, where is it? Sprint off and speed on, sure. Then if we reload the client, we'll see that speed stays and sprint's disabled. Because we'll see here in the tutorial_config, sprint is false and speed's enabled to true. And the same would go ahead for the settings. Alright, so that'll do it for this video. In the next video, we're probably going to work on drawing rounded rects, and soon, very soon, we're going to be working on making a backend for this for key systems.